This video is about LED strobing and how it relates to 110.3b of the NEC and why your LED lights may be strobing. You want to remember to always check with your local AHJ authority having jurisdiction and your local and state codes. Most of my content is about how to pass your inspection and about ICC codes and NEC codes. But this past weekend, I ran into a headache that came around later in my career as they started to introduce more LED lighting and LED dimmers and the conflict that was coming up with incandescents and LEDs on the dimmers. So we'd get a service call going to somebody's house because they had changed out bulbs or maybe even changed out a dimmer and they were getting some type of strobing effect on the bulb now. And oftentimes earlier on, it was because there was incompatibility with the dimmer. The dimmer was only an incandescent dimmer and not rated for LEDs, so that would be a problem. But even as the technology continued, we were seeing strobing issues coming up with different LED dimmers. So that's what I'm talking about today. And it does somewhat relate back to 110.3b of the NEC, which is following the manufacturer's requirements for installation. So for me, what happened this past weekend is I changed out a couple of bulbs and can lights. I had recessed lighting, and I started to get this crazy strobing effect. I was going to try to take a picture of it, but it's hard to get it to capture on the video. But if you've ever experienced it, you know what I'm talking about. So for any electricians or DIYers out there, you know what I'm talking about. So it's like an unwanted strobing effect. And at times it would get pretty heavy. So I thought maybe there was a problem with the dimmer, but I'll explain what I did as we continue through this. To explain a little bit more about how this can happen, most dimmers are two-wire dimmers. So there's a hot and a load side on the dimmer. And that is where a problem sometimes begins, because with a two-wire dimmer, there's no dedicated neutral going to that dimmer. So the dimmer steals a little bit of power through the bulb itself, even when the bulb is off at a very low dim level. And that's often where a problem can occur. So to simplify this, the dimmer is sending a little bit of power through the bulb in order to keep the electronics alive on the dimmer switch itself. And this is where a problem occurs because many bulb drivers don't like this and they end up flickering or strobing either at a low level, a low dim level, or you might get some kind of a problem even when the dimmer switch is off. So what's happening in the bulb driver, and especially on cheaper bulbs, is that the driver sees this little bit of current flowing through it and doesn't know what to do with it. And it ends up trying to reset the driver on the bulb or reset the electronics. And then you get that strobing effect or random flashes. Now, typically on a new install, if you rough it in with the neutral, then a switch like I have up here on the slide is a neutral required switch. And that pretty much almost always eliminates any type of a strobing problem because it's like plugging the device in, so to speak, to simplify it. The power is always there at the switch, and you're not doing anything through the driver of the bulb to make the dimmer electronics stay alive. Now, on most of the LED switches that you buy today, there's going to be a low-end adjustment on there. So on the initial install of that dimmer switch, if you do have some type of a strobing or flashing, one thing you can do is make an adjustment to that low-end dial and just slowly start sliding it up. The only problem with that is that you start to lose a little bit of that low dimming. So essentially what that low end adjustment is going to do is it's going to raise the minimum brightness. So you won't be able to dim the lights down as low as you might want. The other thing that can come in effect is with shared neutrals. If the neutrals that are shared are in the same phases, which obviously is against the NEC, that is going to cause you a problem. If you have loose connections or you have poorly grouped neutrals so that somebody grabbed a neutral that was on a shared and it's on now a different circuit, a different phase, that's going to be a problem. So you're going to get ghost voltages when that happens. And obviously you want to be following NEC 210.4 regarding any type of a shared neutral situation. So how do you fix LED strobing? On the slide I have up here, I'm giving you a list of from the easiest to the more difficult. So the first thing you want to do is you want to make sure the bulb is compatible, that you actually have an LED dimmer, and also that that bulb is recommended. So most good manufacturers are going to have a compatibility tool, which I'll show you in a minute. And you want to make sure if you start having a problem or it's a new install or somebody changed the bulbs like I did and now you get some type of a strobing effect, you want to make sure that that bulb matches the manufacturer's requirements. Most of the time, a cheap bulb is going to cause a problem for you as soon as you put it in. That's kind of probably what happened with me. You can adjust the dimmer's low-end trim, as I mentioned before. Start raising that up a little bit to see if you lose that effect. You can upgrade to a neutral wire dimmer, and that pretty much always takes care of the problem. If you have a neutral tied to the dimmer, then you have power always available at the dimmer switch. So you're not trying to steal anything from the bulb, and that usually works out 99% of the time. or if you have some type of a sure neutral problem. So you're troubleshooting an existing residence, and maybe you find that they have some type of a sure neutral issue going on, or loose neutrals. That could be causing a strobing issue. So for me, I have a Lutron dimmer, and I went to their compatibility tool. If you look at the slide I have up here now, I'm just showing how easy it is to use their tool to find the correct bulb you need for your particular dimmer. So you click on the bulb to determine what type of bulb you need. Then you're going to go to look at the dimmers that they have, and my dimmer was a Lutron slide. So you click on that, and then when you go down, you see that that's my particular dimmer there. So I clicked on that dimmer. It says confirm it's an LED dimmer. Then you just start clicking on the different boxes to pick the bulb that I needed. I need a BR style for my can. I picked the wattage I needed for my recessed light. I wanted warm white. Philips bulbs are easy to find near me. And then it determines the bulb that you need. And also you can see there's a lot of good reviews on it. So for me, the fix was simple. I used the compatibility tool, got the correct bulb, and the strobing stop. I didn't have to do any kind of rewiring, or I didn't have to change the dimmer. I did actually mess around with the low end trim, but it didn't change it. So I knew that it had to have been that the bulbs that I put in were not compatible. And actually I ended up changing out all of them because I had purchased a less expensive bulb. And over time, a couple of them went out, and when I replaced those, that's when the problem started. So I replaced them all with Lutron's recommended bulb. So I hope this video will help you if you run into this issue out in the field or in your own home. If you want a full breakdown of this, you can go to my site, buildingcodegeek.com, where I lay it out in more detail. And I'll leave links in the description, also the product links. I'll leave the products that I used that took care of the problem for me. And also I'll leave a link in there for a neutral wire dimmer. If you liked the video, remember to give me a thumbs up and subscribe, and thanks for watching.